This is the Sub250 DollyFly25 V2. It's a 2.5-inch cinewhoop, and it actually is under 250 grams with a 720 milliamp 4S battery, which is a very reasonable battery size that'll get you over 6 minutes of flight time. This drone has GPS built in, a USB-C extension for your flight controller, a captured XT30 connector, an optional LED light strip, and it's got a camera dampening system so you can get smooth, vibration-free footage from your DJI O4 Pro system. Cinewhoops are known for being pretty noisy. This one isn't as loud as some. Here's what it sounds like. So is a 2.5-inch cinewhoop right for you? And if so, is this 2.5-inch cinewhoop right for you? That's what we're gonna find out in this video. Make sure to stick around until the end because I am gonna compare the DollyFly25 V2 to some of the other options you might be looking at, like the Stellar25 and the SpeedyBee Bee25. Let's get into it. I did install my own DJI O4 Pro system, but you can get this drone with a DJI O4 Pro pre-installed, but it will cost you $280 more. The carbon plate is 2 millimeters thick. It feels very stiff and there's very little flex. I can't imagine you'd ever break it. The carbon frame is mounted to the plastic prop guards with standoffs in the front and back and these CNC aluminum braces on the sides. These prop protectors have a lot of flex, which means they will be able to absorb impacts in a crash. To access your electronics, for example, to plug in your DJI O4 or your LED strip, you need to remove these 8 screws, 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and 2 on each side. Once those screws are removed, the prop protectors will just come right off. We do get an extra canopy in the box, but unfortunately, there's no extra prop guard. As you can see, I installed the black canopy on mine just because I think it looks cool. This drone has a very interesting design with the DJI O4 Pro mounted sideways up front, and at first glance, it reminded me a lot of the SpeedyBee Bee25. Although when we look close, you'll see that there's a lot of differences. The DJI O4 Pro is mounted into this plastic sled, which is suspended from the frame with 4 rubber grommets, so the entire air unit is soft mounted, not just the camera. Notice that these rubber grommets are thick and strong. This is important because with some soft mounting solutions, the rubbers can get torn in a crash. We do get an extra set of rubber grommets with the drone in case yours break. The camera mount has plenty of space to fit ND filters, although it can be a little bit hard to install and remove ND filters because it's hard to get your fingers in there to access the camera, but that's the price we pay to have our DJI O4 Pro camera so well protected. The USB port on the DJI O4 Pro is accessible on the top, and the SD card and bind button are easy to access on the bottom. One disadvantage of this design is that the SD card is exposed down here if you were to land in dirt or wet grass, and it's also possible that the SD card could get ejected, but that's pretty unlikely and it's never happened to me. I did try to install the air unit the other way around so the SD card was facing up, but it didn't work because the camera cable got in the way. The antennas have plenty of separation between the elements, and video reception was very good, as you would expect from the DJI O4 Pro. I do wonder about durability because in a crash, these antennas will act as levers and put a lot of force against these plastic antenna mounts and they could break, but I guess that's why we get an extra canopy in the box. Notice that there is no external camera mount. This isn't an issue for most people because with the DJI O4 Pro, you don't need an external camera, but there are some video pros out there who might want to run a naked GoPro or even something like the Osmo Nano because there are some advantages to running an external camera. For example, you might want to film in 24 or 30 frames per second on your external camera and then use a higher frame rate to actually fly the drone. You might be able to find a 3D print if you need to run an external camera, but there is no solution out of the box. Our GPS unit is installed in the rear of the drone in this tiltable mount that's made of a soft rubberized material. I love that Sub250 is including GPS units on all their drones. A nano GPS unit like this just doesn't add that much cost or weight, but the advantages of being able to use GPS rescue are huge, especially if you ever fly over water or at a location where you might not be able to get your drone back if you were to fail safe. And it actually works a lot better than on some other drones I've tested recently, and I think that comes down to this front-mounted air unit design, because there's a lot of separation between the GPS antenna and the DJI O4 Pro. I've noticed that when the GPS is mounted on top of the DJI O4 camera, like it is on the Oasis Fly 35 and the Stellar25, reception is never that good, and I assume it's because the DJI O4 Pro camera is interfering with the GPS antenna. But since most quads have the DJI antennas mounted in the back, there's really no ideal place to mount a GPS on a smaller drone. So the front-mounted air unit turns out to be a real advantage when it comes to GPS reception. The battery is mounted behind the air unit like this, and it's a very cool design because it keeps everything streamlined. The battery mount uses 2 aluminum rails and a captured battery strap. We do get an extra battery strap in the box, but unfortunately it's the same size. I would have preferred a longer strap in order to use larger batteries. This battery mounting system works great, but you are limited in what battery sizes and shapes you can use. The available space is about 32 millimeters or about 1¼ inches between these rails, and about 62 millimeters or 2½ inches between the front camera mount and the rear XT30. The Sub250 720 milliamp high voltage 4S packs fit perfectly, and it seems like the drone was designed for these packs because the center of gravity is perfectly balanced, so I would highly recommend grabbing some of these batteries for this drone. The CNHL 650 or 850 milliamp 4S packs also fit, but the strap is just barely long enough to go around this fatter 850 milliamp pack. You can't really use larger 4S packs like a 1300 milliamp or a lithium ion pack because they won't fit between the rails and the included strap is too short, and you wouldn't want to use a super heavy pack anyway because it would throw off the center of gravity, which is a disadvantage of this front mounted air unit design. Without the DJI O4 Pro, the DollyFly25 V2 weighs in at just over 149 grams. With the DJI O4 Pro installed, it weighs 182.6 grams. With a 720 milliamp 4S battery, it weighs 248.1 grams. And if I add my ND filter, because that's how I'm going to fly mine, it weighs 249.2 grams. So this is a sub 250 gram quad, even with a decent sized battery. And that's really important because it means that you can avoid drone registration hassles, and that's one of the main selling points of this 2.5 inch form factor. And just for reference, this LED strip does weigh 4 grams, so if I had installed the LED strip on my drone, I would be over 250 grams with this setup at 253 grams. Keep in mind that if you use the DJI remote, you'll get the plug-and-play version and your drone will be a few grams lighter because you won't have that ELRS receiver or antenna back here. With a CNHL 650 milliamp 4S battery, it weighs in at 265.7 grams. And with a CNHL 850 milliamp 4S pack, it weighs in at 285.3 grams. The Sub250 720 milliamp packs are actually lighter than the CNHL 650 milliamp packs, so when you're shopping for batteries, make sure to compare weights. The Stellar25 that I reviewed a little while back is just a few grams heavier, but that few grams was the difference between being able to use these 720 milliamp 4S batteries in a sub 250 gram setup. The way I see it, if you're limited to small and unrealistic battery sizes, then it's not really a sub 250 gram drone. Alright you guys, I took the DollyFly25 V2 out to a park for some flight tests, and the first thing I do with the new quad is to test GPS rescue just to make sure I've got that emergency fallback in case I need it. GPS rescue was not set up out of the box. I did have to assign a switch to it to the modes tab in Betaflight and then set it up in the failsafe tab. The GPS on this quad works great, and I saw up to 30 satellites, which is insane. What you're seeing right now is the default OSD setup that the quad comes with. I haven't changed anything because I want you to see what it looks like out of the box. For me, it's very distracting to have OSD elements stuck right in the middle of the screen because it really interferes with my ability to see obstacles like small branches, so I'll definitely be changing the OSD. Sub250 says you can get 6 minutes 50 seconds with their 720 milliamp high voltage 4S battery, and I did get a little bit over 7 minutes on one of my packs just cruising around at my local park, although I did fly that pack down a little lower than I meant to, but after I landed it came back up to 14 volts or 3.5 volts per cell, so I guess it was okay. If you plan to fly super fast or do any freestyle, you probably get more like 5 minutes, but I think you can count on a solid 6 or 6.5 minutes of the sort of cinewhoop style flying or cruising that I'm doing in these flights. The tune on this quad feels great. There are no shakes or vibrations. It's agile and responsive, and when you put it into angle mode, you can fly low and slow and get some super smooth cinematic FPV shots, and this would be a great quad to fly indoors or to do real estate fly-throughs. As you can see, there's no jello at all in my footage, and when I run it through GyroFlow, the footage looks great. So the soft camera mount is doing its job very well, and this drone is very good at what it was designed to do, and that's getting smooth and stable FPV shots with a prop protected design that allows you to get really close to your subject without hurting people or damaging property. Alright you guys, if we compare the DollyFly25 V2 to the SpeedyBee Bee25, there are some similarities, starting with this front-mounted camera design, which gives us more separation between the DJI O4 Pro and the GPS on both quads, and that gives us better GPS performance. That also means that the wheelbase of both quads is a little bit wider than it is on other designs because the air unit is placed in between the props. The camera mount on the Bee25 only uses these silicone inserts. It doesn't have a true dampening system like the DollyFly25 V2. And the Bee25 is wired for GPS, but it doesn't actually come with a GPS unit. You have to source and install your own. The Bee25 is about 6 grams lighter than the DollyFly25 V2, and that's with the LED strip pre-installed. If you remove the LED strip to do an apples to apples comparison, it would be about 10 grams lighter. But the build quality on the Bee25 feels cheaper and more plasticky. The DollyFly25 V2 definitely feels more solid in the hands, and it has those aluminum side braces for added strength. The space for mounting a battery on the Bee25 is also slightly more limited than it is on the DollyFly25 V2. The real advantage of the Bee25 is that it has this modular design which allows you to share one DJI O4 Pro between the Bee25 and the Master 3X. So if you ever wanted to add a 3.5-inch drone to your fleet, the ability to share one DJI O4 Pro quickly between those two quads is a huge advantage. But if you don't plan to take advantage of that feature, the DollyFly25 V2 does feel like a more premium drone with better build quality, and it does fly a little bit better. If we compare the DollyFly25 V2 to the DeepSpaceFPV the Stellar25 feels extremely solid. The ducts are much stronger, they are noticeably thicker and more robust, they have less flex in them, and they just feel like they're not going to break. The Stellar25 does have an included GPS unit, but reception wasn't that great because it's installed over the DJI O4 Pro camera, and I rarely got over 8 to 10 satellites, and the GPS on the DollyFly25 V2 does work much better. The Stellar25 does have some cool design features like an access door for the DJI O4 Pro and for the ELRS receiver, and the space available for a battery is slightly more than it is on the DollyFly25 V2, so you can fit larger batteries on this drone for longer flight times without sacrificing center of gravity, although that will put you over 250 grams. The Stellar25 also flies great, the tune is pretty much perfect, and it's probably the best flying drone out of the three, although the difference here is very slight. I'm really splitting hairs. Remember I just told you guys that the prop protectors on the Stellar25 are thick and heavy? Well, if you look at them closely, they are actual functional ducts, not just prop protectors. They're about 8 millimeters tall, and they're angled in to draw air through the ducts and force it out the other side, and we do see some efficiency gains with this design. The Stellar25 is also very loud, which is typical of quads with functional ducts because they do tend to scream as air is forced through the duct. The problem with the Stellar25 is really that it's heavy. It's about 3 grams heavier than the DollyFly25 V2, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but it does mean that you can only get it under 250 grams with a very small battery. The DollyFly25 V2 lands right in the middle of these two other quads. It is heavier than the B25, but it's lighter than the Stellar25. All right, guys, now it's time for my conclusions. I really see 2 main use cases for this drone. It can be a real video production workhorse because you can fly it indoors or in close proximity to people to get some unique cinematic FPV shots without hurting anybody or anything. And it's also a great option for new pilots because a cinewhoop like this is designed to be stable to get those cinematic FPV shots, which means it's pretty easy to fly. And with these plastic prop guards, it's durable, so it'll take some crashes. It's small enough to fly in tight spaces or around people. These powerful 1404 motors do have the authority to fly well in larger outdoor spaces and to handle some wind. And this unique soft mounting system allows you to capture some perfectly smooth cinematic FPV footage with your DJI O4 Pro. And having the DJI system mounted all the way to the front means that there's very good separation between the GPS antenna and the DJI system, and we do get better GPS performance on this drone than on other similar sized drones. Since this is a prop protected cinewhoop, it is a little bit loud, and even though it's under that magical 250 gram number, if Sub250 could have made it just a little bit lighter, it would probably fly better, longer, and make less noise. The bottom line is that if you want a capable and durable sub 250 gram drone for getting close proximity FPV shots or learning FPV, the DollyFly25 V2 is definitely worth a look. What do you guys think of this drone? Would you take this over another 2.5-inch cinewhoop or a smaller drone like the Pavo 20 Pro or the Darkstar 22? Let me know what you guys think of this drone in the comments. I love talking FPV with you guys. If you want to see more about this drone or check pricing, I do have links down in the video notes. All right, that'll do it for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one.